Good day, I'm Askar Sherlief, and these are the latest news from Kazakhstan. The Kazakh penitentiary system has to be urgently reorganized. Human rights defender Vadim Kuramshin demands total transparency and openness of the system. Astana is proud of the constitution, while the international experts note that the recent changes lead to the rule of Nursultan Nazarbayev to absolutism. Kazakhstan is preparing to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the constitution. The last bell for the school accountants in southern Kazakhstan. Who will oversee the accounting now? The reforms of the Interior Ministry should not be prolonged. Already now it is necessary to conduct independent inspections of Kazakh penal colonies. This opinion was expressed by Vadim Kuramshin on August 20th. He still receives messages from prisons saying that the tortures are still being used. Next report has more.
The Kazakh penitentiary system is ultimately discredited. This was the evaluation stated on Friday during the press conference in Almaty. The transfer of the Kazakh penitentiary system from under the Interior Ministry to the Justice Ministry did not give expected results, says former prisoner of the colony in Granitny village Oleg Kobzev. He recalls that the violation of convicts' rights is a norm. The administration always knows in advance about the visits of human rights defenders and created fake veneer. When they enter the prison, there's nobody there. It seems that it is empty. All the prisoners are taken to the barracks. They take 3 or 5 people, give them their speeches, and they are like third graders, learn what they need to say. Later, these prepared convicts say that everything is fine and ideal, almost like they committed the crimes on purpose in order to end up in this colony. As a proof of their opinion, the members of the press conference headed by the human rights defender Vadim Kuramshin recall about the emergency situation in the penal colony 166/25 located in Granitny village of Akmola region, where almost 200 people were hospitalized as a result of the mutiny suppression. 2 people have died, and this is all information. They're not showing my brother to me. They're not providing absolutely any information. They are pushing me away from the penitentiary administration. They are fighting with me. I don't know. What should I do? This is unbearable. Vadim Kuramshin lays hopes on the presidential initiative over the reforming of the law enforcement system. In Astana, the chairman of the Constitutional Council explains that the Kazakhstan will take an example from the Western and European countries. The attention was paid on the so-called saving on repressions. In other words, in the cases when the less severe measures can be taken, they should be taken. In particular, the head of the state has paid his attention to the necessity for broader use of measures which are not connected with imprisonment. Human rights defender Kuramshin disagrees with the deadline, which is the end of the year. Jointly with the association Talmas, Kuramshin is proposing to allot the public monitoring commissions with unlimited rights for the inspection of special institutions at any time of the day and without any warnings.
Lawyer Sergei Utkin doesn't lay hopes on the reforms but on the victory of common sense. During another court session over the petition of Kometa S printing house against the Almaty Tax Inspection Agency, Utkin proved that he knows the taxation legislation better than tax inspectors. The hearing was held yesterday and the discussion mainly concerned the transfer pricing. According to Utkin, who represents the interests of Kometa, the printing house is idle for almost a year, whereas the law enforcement are searching for loopholes in the legislation that would justify their claims.
The main dispute have emerged around the transfer pricing. This is the internal trade between the structural subdivisions of the United Enterprise and its affiliated individuals. According to the lawyer Sergei Utkin, which represents the interests of the Kometa S printing house, the tax inspectors are playing a legal game by incriminating to the printing house the fact that the price for the newspaper Respublika, which was printed by the Kometa S, was lower than the market cost. However, the printing house was just filling an order and the paper was bought for lower price. The state bodies also conduct tenders and purchase imported expendable materials, says Utkin. The one that has the lower price wins. Following the logic of the tax inspectors, the winners of such tenders are also cheaters. The head of the Almaty Juridical Administration of the Tax Inspection Agency, Askar Ketpizbayev, was not able to answer to the claims of Utkin. Since September of the last year, the only printing house that has agreed to print the independent newspaper Respublika remains sealed. How can we consider it right? Nothing is unknown. And somebody from the top has checked it. How did he check it? Based on which documents he did that? You didn't present it him here. You don't have these documents. Where did you find this amount of realization? And you want us to agree that this is correct? You should understand that this is wrong.
The bill that hampers democracy, this is how experts call the document on the information access developed by the Nur Otan party. The work over the bill is almost completed and the developers have conducted public hearings in Almaty.
The law on the information access practically works around the whole world. In this matter, Kazakhstan is amongst the most backward countries. In other countries, after the acceptance of the law, the number of state secrets would significantly decrease, says expert Janar Jandosov. This is not going to happen in our country. The document protects authorities, which mean that the information over how much do they earn, where do they live, remains veiled. At the same time, the project doesn't have a single word about the opening of contracts over the use of natural resources, which means that information on the quantity of oil sold and the prices will not be revealed. This will give the privileges to the authorities and hamper the democracy. Probably because the development of this law was commissioned to the institute, which is supervised by the Nuratan party, and there is no point of waiting for any developments from this law.
The Kazakh capital Astana is celebrating the 15th anniversary of the constitution. In fact, the festivities are planned for August 30th, but already today a special postage stamp was introduced with the circulation of 30,000 copies, whereas the experts, scientists and representatives of the diplomatic corps have discussed the democratic victory of the main law of the country in the National Library in Astana.
Today, the speakers have talked about the legal base, first steps and the unique experience, the importance of the constitution on the way to political reforms and in the protection of the civil society's rights was notably emphasized. According to the organizers, the constitution, which was accepted on August 30th, 1995, was prepared by the work group too fast, and during the discussion of the document, around 30,000 offers were made. All the shortcomings, the remarks of international human rights defending organizations, and the fact that the changes to the constitution increase the power of the president were not mentioned during the discussion. We are of course proud of our constitution, but our goal is to strengthen and further develop these clauses in the sectoral legislation. There are problems with the Kazakh language, with the non-commercial organizations, with the non-governmental sector, and several other problems.
Kazakh Customs is optimizing its personnel. The number of staff on the border with Russia was decreased by a third, informed the deputy head of the Customs Control Committee of the Financial Ministry, Igor Ten. This decision was made after the creation of the United Customs Union of Kazakhstan, Russia and Belarus.
The speaker also added that the customs posts on the border with Russia have remained. Ten clarified that they're conducting registration and controlling functions. If the documents specify that the goods are coming from Russia, the customs officials are letting them pass freely. Meanwhile, it is still unknown how Kazakhstan is going to stand for its rights within the alliance and why the priority is given to the Russian specialists. It is already known that this is not the last decrease of customs officials on the border. According to the information of the authorities, the Kazakh customs officials will be fully replaced by Russian specialists by the summer of the next year. We will be there until July 1st, 2011, and then we will see how this problem is going to be solved.
The Moscow Arbitration Court has started the examination of the Kazakh BTA Bank's petition against the Russian AMT Bank. The financial institute questions the change of the charter of the Russian AMT. The petition addresses the Russian bank and the administration of the Federal Tax Agency of Moscow.
Kazakh BTA Bank already tried to hamper the renaming of the Russian AMT Bank. The former daughter of the BTA has conducted a rebranding because of the unpleasant emotional background which has emerged around the Kazakh BTA. In early July, the Moscow Arbitration Court has refused in satisfying the petition. Now the representatives of the BTA Bank claim that the Russian Central Bank is unable to perform its duties well over regulating the Russian banking system. The central bank fails to perform its duties well over the monitoring. It doesn't oversee which constructive documents are being introduced. And news about the Kazakh BTA Bank. This financial institution will buy out its simple shares from the Samruk-Kazana Fund. The information about this has emerged on the website of the Kazakh Stock Exchange. The press service of the bank has confirmed the information. The purchased securities will include 8.4 billion shares of the BTA Bank, which belong to the State National Wealth Fund. The buyout will be conducted in accordance with the conditions of bank restructuring. The cost of the total shares will be 1 tenge. In February 2009, the private BTA Bank, the biggest bank in the CIS, was forcibly nationalized without the consideration of its top managers and shareholders. It had around $30 billion of assets.
The Kazakh monopolists owe Kazakh population almost $17 million. This was the decision of the Agency on Regulating Natural Monopolies. Experts warn that the late can create another section in the receipt in order to avoid the repayment of money. Details come next.
The energy workers of the eastern Kazakhstan are planning to shut down the electricity supply because of the debts. The local monopolist Shigis Energo Trade says that the consumers owe the company $7 million. I don't want to talk about it. This is how energy workers went on the raid. This is an elite district of Ust-Kamenogorsk with high fences, video surveillance systems and armed security. It is hard to get through to the counters. Energy workers can only appeal to the court, but there are already 400 petitions with no sink debts. In the houses where the counters are located in the basement, they have big debts. While the monopolists are trying to receive the money from the population, the agency on regulating the natural monopolies has informed that Kazakhstan will introduce compensating tariffs in relation to 137 subjects. The loss have gathered $17 million from the customers. The amount is about $18 million, and this money will be returned to the customers. The agency on regulating the monopolies has ordered to return the money in the upcoming 10 years via the recalculation. Valentin Makalkin, the economist and two-time parliamentarian, explains this by the irrational policies of the administration. According to him, the market relations are not suitable for the natural monopolies. The disintegration of the once united system has brought more harm than benefit. According to Valentin Makalkin, the giving out of the heating and energy networks for the farming to the businessmen was an obvious mistake. They made money on it, but wore out the infrastructure by 70%. Sooner or later it will have to be restored, which will affect every counter.
Shymkent is decreasing the number of school accountants. Hundreds of people are on the verge of being left unemployed. In September, the South Kazakhstan will launch the centralized accounting. More details come in the next report.
The southern Kazakhstan schools are refusing to use the services of school accountants. Svetlana Loyko worked as school accountant for 20 years and now she's fired. As a compensation, the city education department promises to maintain the fired accountants at school, but the positions are not yet determined. If I will remain at school, who should I work as? There are vacancies for laboratory assistants and cleaners. Do you know their salaries? The accountant with a higher education in such a situation. The know-how of the regional authorities is the centralized system of accounting. Instead of 200 workers, there will be only 80. The accountants claim that there will be delays of salaries and teachers will need to stand in lines to receive one document. The chief accountant has to be at school. Everyone agrees? Yes. So the local authorities who create these laws, let them think carefully. The teachers are also discontent about the upcoming experiment. They have conducted their meeting. The teachers recall that the schools in the south have already experienced such reforms in the mid-90s. It took us hours to give away the timesheets so that they could give the salary. We had to stand in line or give a bribe in order to make it quick. The City Labor Union of Education Workers already has almost 250 inquiries from accountants. The leader of the labor union, Valentina Vashenka, is confident that the authorities are violating several laws. This is going to be extremely hard for the education department when they will start working with the centralized accounting system. First of all, they don't have the material base. They have no computers, they don't have the programs in order to conduct the financial operations, and no space. However, the city education department claims that they will resolve all the problems and only 40 people will be fired. They will be paid compensation, say the authorities, and the rest will be offered new positions. We will save up to $500,000, and plus we have problems with the education process and we will reinforce the schools with inspectors. All the accountants already received notifications on the dismissal. Already in a week, the Municipal Public Education Authority will hold a contest. The qualified specialists will have to prove their right for work in the new system. The authorities plan to launch it in September.
This is all for now. Have a great weekend. Goodbye.